The command bunker of Forward Operating Base Echo 7 buzzed with tense activity as reports flooded in from across Kepler 442b. Lieutenant Copper stood at attention with the other Neodog officers, watching the holographic display show red markers spreading across the planet's surface like a disease. Alien forces have made planetfall in 17 locations, Colonel Walter announced grimly to the assembled human and Neodog commanders. Initial estimates put their numbers at over 50,000, with more ships arriving every hour. The base around them housed nearly 800 personnel, 312 Neodogs of the 47th Frontier Battalion alongside their human support staff. They'd been on Kepler 442b for 8 months, systematically pacifying the hostile wildlife and establishing the infrastructure needed for large-scale colonization. The planet was supposed to be humanity's crown jewel in this sector, a garden world perfect for expansion. "Sir?" Major Damascus, the human operations officer, raised his hand. "What are our reinforcement options?" Walter's face was stone. "There are none. Fleet Command has made the decision to implement Protocol 7. A chill ran through the room. Protocol 7 was retreat. Total evacuation of all assets deemed recoverable. Sergeant Fang, Copper's second-in-command, growled low in her throat. "Sir, what constitutes recoverable assets?" The silence that followed was deafening. "All human personnel are to be evacuated immediately," Walter finally said, his voice carefully neutral. "Essential equipment and data will be extracted. Non-essential assets," he paused, unable to meet the Neodog's eyes, "are to be left in place to delay enemy advance." The words hit like a physical blow. 312 enhanced soldiers, veterans of humanity's expansion into the stars, classified as non-essential. "Sir," Copper found his voice, "the 47th has been instrumental in securing this planet. We've eliminated the hostile megafauna, established safe zones, prepared landing sites." "Your service has been exemplary, Lieutenant," Walter cut him off, "but the decision has been made at the highest levels. The transport capacity simply isn't sufficient for full evacuation." Captain Sweetie, leader of the base's Alpha Company, stepped forward. "Colonel, with respect, my pack alone could fit on a single transport. We're not talking about massive cargo here." Walter's jaw tightened. "The orders are clear. Human personnel only. The Neodogs will remain to buy time for the evacuation." "How much time?" Fang asked quietly. 72 hours, minimum. Longer if possible." The room erupted in protests from both human and Neodog officers, but Walter raised his hand for silence. "The decision is final. Human personnel will begin evacuation in 6 hours. All Neodogs will remain at their posts and continue pacification operations until relieved." As the briefing dissolved into chaos, Copper caught fragments of heated arguments between human officers. Some were clearly outraged by the abandonment order, while others seemed resigned to following commands from above. "This is insane!" Lieutenant Rodriguez, one of the human platoon leaders, grabbed Copper's arm. "I won't leave you here to die." "You'll follow orders, Lieutenant." Walter's voice cut across the room. "All of you will. This comes from Fleet Command and it is not open for debate." 6 hours later, Copper stood in the landing bay, watching the first wave of transports lift off. His enhanced hearing picked up fragments of conversation from the departing humans, some apologetic, some ashamed, others coldly professional. Sergeant Fang approached, her jaw set in grim determination. "All human personnel have been evacuated, sir. 312 Neodogs remain operational." Around them, the massive base felt suddenly empty, despite the large Neodog presence. The humans had only made up a quarter of their forces, but they'd handled logistics, communications, and liaison duties that would now fall to the Neodogs themselves. "What are your orders, Lieutenant?" Captain Sweetie asked, arriving with the other company commanders. Copper looked around at his fellow officers. Sweeney from Alpha Company, Captain Doug from Bravo, Captain Tracker from Charlie, Captain Luna from Delta. Each commanded between 60 and 80 Neodogs, all veterans of the pacification campaign. Ours. Orders, Copper said firmly, are to hold this position and delay enemy advance. We continue the mission. The first sign something was wrong came 18 hours after the evacuation. Copper was reviewing defensive positions when Private Dash came running from the water treatment facility, his nose twitching with alarm. "Sir," Dash panted, "something's wrong with the water supply. There's a scent, chemical, artificial. It wasn't there yesterday." Copper followed him to the facility where several other Neodogs had gathered, all looking disturbed. The scent hit him immediately. Sharp, medicinal, wrong. "When did this start?" he asked. "About an hour ago," Corporal Bramble reported. "Came on gradually, but it's getting stronger." "Could be a malfunction in the purification system," Doug suggested, her technical background making her the logical choice to investigate. "I'll run a full diagnostic." But even as she worked, Copper felt uneasy. The timing seemed too convenient. Humans evacuate, then mysterious chemicals appear in their water supply. "Sir," Tracker approached, his enhanced nose the most sensitive in the battalion, "I'm picking up traces of this same compound in the main base ventilation system. It's not just the water." The realization hit like ice water. They poisoned us. "What?" Fang spun around, her eyes blazing. "The evacuation wasn't about transport capacity," Copper said grimly. "It was about timing. Get the humans out, then release whatever this is into our systems." Doug's diagnostic finally came through, confirming their worst fears. "It's a synthetic compound designed to interact with Neodog neural chemistry. I can't identify the specific effects, but it's definitely targeted at our enhanced physiology." "How long have we been exposed?" Sweetie asked. "Unknown," Doug replied. "Could be minutes, could be hours. The compound is odorless until it reaches certain concentrations." Around the base, other Neodogs were beginning to notice the strange scent. Word spread quickly through the companies, and Copper found himself addressing increasingly worried soldiers. "We don't know what this chemical does," he announced to the assembled battalion, "but we know who deployed it and why. Our own command has decided we're expendable, so we prove them wrong." "Sir," Captain Luna spoke up, "what if this compound is designed to change us somehow?" "Then we deal with whatever comes," Copper replied. "Together, we're soldiers of the 47th Frontier Battalion, and we don't abandon our posts." The first alien probe arrived at dawn, 36 hours after the chemical exposure began. Copper watched it through his rifle scope, noting its cautious scanning patterns. But what disturbed him more was the behavior of some of his own troops. Private Grit from Charlie Company had been found that morning wandering the perimeter without his weapon, responding slowly to direct orders. Corporal Branch from Delta Company had snapped at a packmate during breakfast, something that would have been unthinkable before. "The chemicals affecting our cognitive functions," Doug reported grimly. "I'm seeing decreased response times, increased aggression, reduced language processing. It's subtle now, but getting worse," Copper finished. "How long until we're no longer effective soldiers?" "At current progression rates, maybe 48 hours until we lose tactical cohesion. 72 hours until—" She couldn't finish. "Until we're animals," Fang said bluntly. Copper's comm unit crackled with reports from across the base. Charlie Company had lost contact with Mining Complex Delta, their sister battalion's position. Bravo Company reported strange howling sounds from the orbital defense platform where Echo Battalion had been stationed. "Sir," Tracker's voice was tight with dread. "I'm picking up movement from the mining complex. Multiple contacts moving this way." The shapes that appeared on their sensors moved wrong, too fast, too aggressive, without the disciplined formation of Neodog military units. "Those are our brothers," Sweetie realized watching the tactical display. "But they're not acting like soldiers anymore." The first of the affected Neodogs arrived at sunset. 8 members of Charlie Battalion's reconnaissance unit. Copper recognized them: Sergeant Flint, Corporals Pawson and Thorne, Privates Oak, Peaches, Stone, Brownie, and Frost. Elite scouts who had mapped every dangerous predator on the planet. Now they moved like predators themselves, their enhanced musculature rippling under fur that had grown wild and unkempt. Their eyes held no recognition, no trace of the intelligence that had once made them elite soldiers. "Sir?" Fang whispered, her voice breaking. "They don't know us." Flint, who had served under Copper for 3 years, looked directly at him and snarled, lips pulling back from enhanced canines that were meant for communication, not intimidation. "Orders, sir?" Sweetie asked quietly, his weapon trained on the approaching ferals. Copper's throat felt dry. This was what the chemical did. It stripped away everything that made them more than animals. The humans had turned their most loyal soldiers into the monsters they'd always feared. Neok could become. "They're no longer our brothers," he said finally. "They're casualties of human betrayal. We honor them by ending their suffering." The firefight was brief and brutal. Enhanced reflexes met enhanced reflexes, but discipline and retained intelligence gave Copper's forces the edge. When it was over, 8 former comrades lay still in the base's dust. "How many more?" Doug asked, tears streaming down her muzzle. "All of them," Copper replied grimly. "Every Neodog unit on the planet will eventually succumb. Which means we're about to fight a war on 3 fronts: the aliens, our own devolved brothers, and time itself." Private Dash suddenly perked up from his position at the sensor station. "Sir, alien forces are moving, 3 massive columns converging on our position." Copper looked around at his remaining battalion, 300 soldiers facing an impossible situation. Abandoned by their creators, hunted by their enemies, slowly losing their minds to chemical warfare, and now forced to kill their own kind. But as he watched his officers stand ready, as he saw the determination in their eyes despite everything they faced, a plan began forming in his tactical mind. "You know what?" he growled, checking his weapon. "I'm tired of being what they expect us to be. They want us to be monsters? Fine. Let's show them what monsters can accomplish when they work together." "Sir?" Sweetie asked. "We're going to do something no one expects," Copper said, his voice carrying the authority that had kept them alive this long. "We're going to turn their betrayal into our weapon. Tracker, how many feral packs are between us and the alien landing zones?" "Multiple groups, sir. I estimate over 1,000 affected Neodogs scattered across the planet." "And the aliens won't engage while pharaohs are in the area?" They seem to be avoiding direct contact, yes, sir." "Then we're going to give them the fight of their lives. We're going to herd our fallen brothers toward the alien positions, and while they tear each other apart, we're going to finish what we started, securing this planet for humanity." The plan was audacious beyond belief, but as Copper looked at his 300 remaining soldiers, he knew they could do it. They were the 47th Frontier Battalion, and they had never failed a mission. They weren't about to start now. Moving through the base's outer perimeter at night, advance teams from all 4 companies began the delicate process of locating and influencing the scattered feral packs. The chemical had affected different units at different rates. Some were completely gone, others still retained fragments of tactical thinking. "Remember," Copper whispered over their tactical comm to Alpha Company as they approached a group of 30 ferals near the communications array, "we're not their enemies. We're just another scent in the wind." Using smoke grenades with carefully crafted pheromone markers, they began influencing the ferals' movement. Enhanced Neodogs retained their incredible sense of smell even after cognitive breakdown. They just lost the ability to interpret complex information from those scents. The process was heartbreaking. Copper watched as Sergeant Thunder from Delta Battalion, a Neodog who had saved his life twice during the pacification campaign, followed the artificial scent trail like a bloodhound, his enhanced intelligence reduced to base hunting instincts. "Contact from Bravo Company," Doug's voice came through the comm. "They've located Echo Battalion survivors, 67 ferals, moving as a hunting pack." "Charlie Company here," Tracker reported. "Found what's left of the orbital platform garrison. They're hunting the local wildlife, successfully." The truly horrifying thing was how effective the feral Neodogs remained at their core function. They were still apex predators with enhanced strength, speed, and senses. They'd simply lost everything that made them soldiers and become pure killing machines. Over the next 6 hours, using coordinated herding tactics across all 4 companies, they gradually merged 12 separate feral packs into 3 massive hunting groups totaling nearly 800 enhanced predators. "Sir," Luna reported as dawn broke, "all 3 alien columns have stopped their advance. They're detecting the feral movements." "Perfect," Copper replied grimly. "Now we show them what Earth's children can do when properly motivated." The alien survey facility sat on a plateau overlooking the main base, its biomechanical architecture gleaming in the morning light. The aliens had chosen their position well. Excellent visibility, multiple defensive positions, overlapping fields of fire. They hadn't counted on facing 800 feral Neodog. Copper's remaining battalion took positions on ridges surrounding the plateau as the first feral pack reached the base of the alien facility. The aliens' sensors detected the approaching threat, and their defensive systems came online with deadly efficiency. But the ferals didn't attack like soldiers. They attacked like the enhanced predators they'd become, flowing over obstacles, ignoring casualties, using their incredible speed and strength to overwhelm prepared positions. What followed was carnage on an unprecedented scale. The aliens' energy weapons, designed for fighting disciplined military units, were useless against enemies that felt no fear and knew no tactics beyond kill and consume. Their biomechanical constructs, optimized for conventional warfare, couldn't adapt to opponents who moved like liquid death. "Sir," Doug said quietly as they watched the battle rage below, "this is what they turned our brothers into." "I know," Copper replied, his voice heavy with grief and rage. "But look at them fight. Even like this, they're still magnificent." The battle raged for 4 hours. When it was over, the alien facility was silent except for the wind whistling through shattered biomechanical structures. The feral packs had torn through 3 alien columns with devastating efficiency, but fewer than 200 of them remained, and those were wounded. "Now?" Sweetie asked. "Now we finish the job," Copper said. "For them, for us, for every world humanity will ever claim among the stars." The remaining aliens had barricaded themselves in the facility's central spire, a massive biomechanical tower that pulsed with alien technology. Copper's battalion approached through the wreckage, their weapons ready, their minds still clear despite the chemical working through their systems. The surviving ferals scattered as they approached, recognizing some primitive threat in the organized movement of the still disciplined soldiers. They disappeared into the ruins, following instincts that would keep them alive in this harsh world. "Motion sensors show 43 hostiles in the spire," Tracker reported. "They're cornered, but they'll fight hard." "Good," Copper growled. "I want them to know they're facing Earth's finest." The assault on the spire was everything their training had prepared them for. 300 Neodogs moved with precision and fury, each protecting their packmates, each fighting not just for survival but for honor, for their fallen brothers, for the right to prove that loyalty and intelligence couldn't be destroyed by human treachery or alien aggression. When the last alien fell, Copper's battalion stood victorious in the Spire's command center. Around them, alien technology hummed with incomprehensible purpose. "Doug," Copper ordered, "access their communications. I want to send a message." It took 2 hours, but Doug's technical skills finally cracked the alien communication system. The message went out on all frequencies, in multiple languages, to every ship in the system. "This is Lieutenant Copper of the 47th Frontier Battalion, Earth Defense Force. Kepler 442b has been secured, all alien forces eliminated, planet pacified and ready for colonization." The response came within minutes. A human voice, shocked and disbelieving. "Copper? Is that really you? Our sensors showed complete tactical failure. The Neodog units were supposed to be..." "Supposed to be what, Control?" Copper asked coldly. "Devolved? Turned into animals? Yeah, we found your little surprise in the water and air systems." Silence on the channel. "You want to know what happened here?" Copper continued. "We did our job. We protected this planet, just like we swore to do. We fought aliens, we fought the monsters you tried to turn us into, and we won. Kepler 442b is secure for colonization." Another voice cut in. Older, more authoritative. "This is Admiral White. Lieutenant, what's your current status?" 247 operational personnel, sir. Ammunition low, morale high. Planets secured and ready for your return. And the other Neodog units? Erupt casualties of chemical warfare, sir. They died as soldiers, even after your command tried to turn them into beasts. A long pause. "Lieutenant, we're sending a rescue mission. ETA 12 hours. "No need, sir. We've got it handled." The rescue ships arrived to find Copper's pack waiting calmly in the base's landing bay. Around them, the facility showed signs of fierce fighting, but was fundamentally intact. The alien threat had been eliminated, the planetary pacification completed, Kepler 442b ready for its intended colonization. Admiral White himself was on the lead ship, his face grim as he surveyed the aftermath. "Lieutenant," he said formally, "your mission report." "Simple, sir," Copper replied, standing at attention with his remaining soldiers beside him. "Enemy contacted and destroyed. Mission accomplished. Planet secured for immediate colonization." "And the chemical agent?" "Neutralized, along with those responsible for deploying it," Copper said coldly. "We've prepared a full report on the biological warfare attack against Neodog personnel." The Admiral's face paled. "Lieutenant, I want you to know that the deployment of that agent was not authorized at the highest levels." "With respect, sir," Copper interrupted, "I don't care who authorized it. What I care about is that it happened, and that it won't happen again." Behind the Admiral, Copper could see other officers and camera crews recording everything. This wasn't just a rescue mission. It was damage control. "The important thing," the Admiral continued carefully, "is that the mission was successful. The planet is secured, the threat eliminated. You and your battalion have performed admirably under impossible circumstances." "Yes, sir, we did our duty. And now I think you've earned some rest. Full medical evaluation, debriefing, and then rotation back." "Sir," Copper cut in, "if it's all the same to you, we'd like to stay here." "Stay? Lieutenant, this is a frontier world. Dangerous. Isolated." Copper looked around at his remaining soldiers. Fang with her fierce loyalty, Tracker with his enhanced senses, Doug with her technical brilliance, Sweetie with his tactical genius. 247 of them, battered but unbroken. "Sir," he said quietly, "someone needs to guard this place. Make sure the colonists are protected when they arrive. Make sure it doesn't happen again. And frankly, after what we've been through, we don't trust anyone else to do the job right." The Admiral opened his mouth to object, then seemed to think better of it. Behind him, the camera crews were still recording. "Very well, Lieutenant. The 47th Frontier Battalion will remain on station as permanent garrison for the upcoming colonization effort. Full supply and support authorization approved. As the ships departed, leaving fresh supplies and renewed respect, Copper's pack stood watching from the landing bay. "Think they learned anything?" Doug asked. "They learned that you can abandon us, betray us, try to turn us into monsters," Copper replied, "but you can't break us, and you definitely can't stop us from doing our job." Fang's eyes scanned the horizon. "Movement to the south. Looks like some of the surviving pharaohs are forming new packs." "Then we'd better get to work," Copper said. "This world needs protecting for the colonists who'll come, and there are still brothers out there who need our help." As they walked back toward the base, Doug looked up at the alien stars above Kepler 442b. "You know what the funny thing is," she said. "They tried to make us into monsters, but all they did was prove we're exactly what we've always been." "What's that?" Clarke asked. "Humanity's best friends, even when humanity doesn't deserve us." The pack moved together into the base, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. They had survived abandonment, betrayal, and a war on 3 fronts. Soon human colonists would arrive to claim this world, and they would find it protected by the very soldiers humanity had tried to throw away. They were the last pack standing, and they would never fall. 3 years had passed since the Battle of Kepler 422b, and Loyal Haven, as the colonists had named their world in honor of the Neodogs who died for it, thrived beyond anyone's expectations. 53 million humans now called the planet home, their cities gleaming under the alien stars that Copper's pack had learned to navigate by. The transformation was remarkable. Where once there had been only forward operating base Echo 7 and a handful of research outposts, now sprawling metropolises stretched across 3 continents. Maglev trains connected mining operations to manufacturing centers. Orbital elevators carried goods to the fleet of ships that now called the system home. But for all the success, shadows remained. Lieutenant Copper, now Colonel Copper by special commendation, stood at the observation deck of Guardian Station, the military headquarters built around the original base. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the lights of Loyal Haven City stretching to the horizon. Beautiful, peaceful, prosperous, and still haunted by what humanity had tried to do to his kind. "Another incident report, sir," Sergeant Fang said, approaching with a data pad. He was Major Fang now, his second in command, and the finest soldier he'd ever served alongside. 3 pharaohs attacked a survey team near the western continent. No casualties this time, but the civilians are getting more nervous. Copper took the report, scanning the familiar details. The pharaoh packs had learned to avoid the cities and major settlements, but they still roamed the wilderness, still occasionally encountered humans, still reminded everyone of what Neodogs could become if stripped of their humanity. How many incidents this month? 17, down from 23 last month, but Fang's ears flattened slightly. The Colonial Council is talking about authorizing hunting parties again. It was an old conversation, one that had grown more frequent as the colony expanded. The feral Neodogs were dangerous, no one disputed that. But to Copper and his surviving soldiers, they weren't monsters to be hunted. They were brothers and sisters whose minds had been stolen by human treachery. The colonists of Loyal Haven, to their credit, largely understood this distinction. They'd named their world after the Neodogs, who'd sacrificed everything for it. They'd erected monuments to the fallen. They dealt pragmatically with the feral threat while recognizing its true source. It was the distant politicians and corporate interests who still pushed the narrative that all Neodogs were inherently dangerous, that the ferals proved enhanced soldiers were too unstable for military service. "Any word from our friends in the city?" "Damascus should be here within the hour," Fong replied. "He says he has news about the investigation." Major Damascus, formerly the human operations officer who'd questioned Protocol 7 during that fateful briefing, had been one of the officers most horrified by the abandonment order. He'd spent the last 3 years working within the colonial administration while secretly investigating the origins of the chemical weapon that had devastated the Neodog forces. He wasn't alone. Nearly a dozen human officers who'd served alongside the 47th Frontier Battalion had found ways to remain on Loyal Haven, using their positions to help protect and support the surviving Neodogs. They called themselves the Pack Brothers, humans who'd earned the trust and loyalty of their enhanced colleagues. The door chimed, and Damascus entered with his characteristic methodical stride. His face was grim, but there was something else in his expression, a predatory satisfaction that Copper recognized from their combat days together. "We found them," Damascus said without preamble. Copper's enhanced hearing picked up the subtle changes in heart rate and breathing that indicated extreme excitement, barely held in check. "All of them?" "Every last one. The paper trail was buried deep, but we finally cracked it. General Morrison authorized the chemical deployment. Secretary Hayes provided the funding through black budget allocations. And Senator Walsh," Damascus' smile was cold, "Walsh owned stock in 3 different military contractors who developed the compound." Major Doug looked up from her technical station, where she'd been monitoring planetary communications. "What about the pharmaceutical companies?" Best Biosolutions and CNEX Chemical both provided components. Their executives are on the list too. Damascus placed a data crystal on Copper's desk. 23 individuals total, all confirmed involvement in what they internally called Project Cleanup. The name made Copper's hackles rise. Even now, 3 years later, the casual dehumanization of his soldiers still ignited a cold fury in his chest. "Where are they now?" Captain Sweetie asked from his position by the tactical display. "Scattered across 7 different worlds. Morrison retired to a luxury compound on Arcadia Prime. Hayes is serving as colonial administrator on New Munich. Walsh is running for re-election from his estate on Terra Nova. Heavily guarded, I assume?" "All of them. Private security, government protection details. They're untouchable through legal channels." Damascus paused. "Which is why we're not going through legal channels." Captain Luna, ever the strategist, studied the data crystal's contents on her personal display. "You're talking about a covert operation across multiple star systems. The logistics alone are manageable," Damascus interrupted, "if we're willing to accept certain risks." "What kind of risks?" Copper asked. Damascus activated the holographic projector, showing a complex web of connections between the 23 targets. "We've been planning this for 8 months. Every target, every security arrangement, every weakness. But the key to the whole operation isn't stealth or firepower." He gestured to the window, where the lights of Loyal Haven sparkled in the distance. "It's them. The Ferals." The room fell silent except for the hum of electronics. Copper felt his enhanced senses cataloging the emotional state of everyone present. Anticipation, fear, grim satisfaction. "Explain," he said quietly. "We capture small groups of ferals, carefully, humanely, and transport them to each target world. Then we arrange for our 23 friends to encounter their handiwork personally." Captain Tracker, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. "The ferals would need to be contained during transport and guided to specific targets." "Doug's been working on that," Damascus said. "Pheromone markers, delayed release containers, the whole package. The ferals follow the scent trail to the target location, encounter whoever's responsible for their condition, and—" "Justice is served," Copper finished. Major Doug activated her own display, showing technical schematics. "The containment units are based on emergency life pods. The ferals would be sedated during transport, then awakened in proximity to the target. Pheromone markers would guide them to specific locations." "And afterward?" Fang asked. "The ferals would be free to follow their instincts. Most likely they'd disappear into whatever wilderness areas exist on each world, or they'd be hunted down and killed," Captain Sweetie pointed out grimly. "Maybe," Damascus acknowledged. "But our friends created the problem. Let them deal with the consequences personally." Copper studied the tactical data, his enhanced mind processing logistics and probabilities. It was audacious, dangerous, and completely unsanctioned. If they were caught, it would mean court-martial for the human officers and execution for the Neodogs. It was also exactly the kind of operation that would honor their fallen brothers and sisters. "How many pharaohs would we need?" 3 to 5 per target, Doug replied. "Enough to ensure mission success. Not so many that containment becomes impossible." Capture methods: modified stun nets, enhanced with pheromone suppressants. Fast deployment, minimal trauma. Timeline? Damascus checked his chronometer. "Transport vessels are already in position. We could begin operations within 72 hours if you give the authorization." Copper looked around at his officers, his pack. These soldiers had survived abandonment, betrayal, and chemical warfare. They'd protected Loyal Haven through 3 years of colonial expansion, earning the respect and gratitude of 50 million human settlers, but they'd never forgotten what had been done to their brothers and sisters. "There's no coming back from this," he said quietly. "Once we begin, we're committed. The Colonial Administration, Fleet Command, Earth Central, they'll all consider us rogue operators." "Sir," Fang said firmly, "they considered us expendable 3 years ago." "Nothing's really changed except their public relations strategy. And our fallen deserve justice," Luna added. "Not the justice of bureaucrats and politicians, but real justice." Captain Tracker nodded. "The Pharaohs deserve to face those who made them what they are." Copper felt the weight of command, the responsibility for his soldiers' lives and futures, but he also felt something else, the fierce loyalty that had kept them alive through impossible odds, the bond that connected every member of the pack. "Very well," he said. "Authorization granted. Begin Operation Homecoming." The first capture operation took place in the Shadowlands, a region of deep canyons and twisted forest where 2 separate feral packs had established territory. Copper's team moved through the darkness with enhanced stealth, their modified equipment designed specifically for this unprecedented mission. "Pack Alpha located," Tracker whispered through the comm system. 6 individuals, standard hunting formation. Copper observed through his rifle scope. The pharaohs moved like liquid death through the underbrush, still magnificent predators despite their lost humanity. He recognized one of them, Sergeant Boulder from Delta Battalion, a demolitions expert who taught half the pack how to handle explosives safely. Now Boulder stalked through alien forests like the apex predator he'd become, all trace of his former intelligence buried under chemical warfare. "Execute capture," Copper ordered. The stun nets deployed with perfect precision, enhanced pheromone suppressants immediately calming the captured pharaohs. Within minutes, 6 former soldiers were sedated and loaded into containment units designed for their safety and comfort. "Transport 1, this is ground team. Package secured and ready for delivery." Damascus's voice crackled back through encrypted channels. "Confirmed. Ground team. Proceeding to target Arcadia." 3 days later, on the garden world of Arcadia Prime, General Morrison was enjoying his morning coffee on the terrace of his luxury estate. The retired officer had spent 3 comfortable years forgetting about the unpleasant decisions required during wartime expansion. The security detail was professional but relaxed. Arcadia Prime was peaceful, civilized, safe, the kind of world where military heroes could enjoy the rewards of their service without worrying about consequences. The containment pods had been placed during the night in Morrison's private nature preserve, 10,000 acres of imported earth forest that surrounded his estate. When the timer mechanisms activated, 6 enhanced predators awakened to find themselves in unfamiliar territory. The pheromone trail led directly toward the main house. Morrison was reviewing his investment portfolio when his security chief burst onto the terrace. "Sir, we have a situation. Multiple hostile contacts approaching from the preserve. Some kind of animals, but they're moving with purpose." "Animals?" Morrison laughed. "What kind of animals could threaten a military installation?" His answer came in the form of Boulder, who cleared the 10-foot security wall in a single enhanced leap and landed on the terrace with predatory grace. 5 more ferals followed, their eyes showing no recognition, no mercy, only the hunting instincts that had made them perfect soldiers. "My God," Morrison whispered, recognizing what he was seeing. "Neodogs! But how did they—" Boulder's enhanced nose detected the scent of fear, the rapid heartbeat of prey, but something else too. A chemical signature buried deep in Morrison's cellular structure, the same signature that marked him as the source of the compound that had destroyed Boulder's mind. The feral's lips pulled back from enhanced fangs, as primitive justice finally found its target. Similar scenes played out across 7 star systems over the next 3 weeks. Secretary Hayes's compound on New Munich, Senator Walsh's estate on Terra Nova, the executive retreats of Best Biosolutions and CNEX Chemical, but the operation extended far beyond the obvious military and corporate targets. On the orbital habitats circling Earth, Congressman Bradley discovered that his private estate's security meant nothing against creatures who could scale walls and leap impossible distances. Bradley had quietly pushed legislation to reduce Neodog military budgets while publicly supporting more costful human alternatives. The ferals who visited him seemed to understand, on some primal level, that this was the man who had tried to make them obsolete. In the industrial world of Titan Station, Bill Frank, CEO of Prometheus Arms Manufacturing, learned why his company's lobbying to replace expensive and unpredictable Neodog units with cheaper human conscripts had been a fatal mistake. Frank had testified before Parliament that Neodogs were an unnecessary expense when properly equipped human soldiers could achieve the same results. The enhanced predators that cornered him in his corporate retreat showed him exactly how wrong that assessment had been. The justice extended to those who had cloaked their cruelty in false righteousness. Dr. Sarah Harris, leader of the Genetic Liberation Front, had publicly advocated for freeing our enhanced brothers from the burden of artificial intelligence. Her isolated research facility on Kepler 618c became the site of her final experiment, when 6 ferals demonstrated what liberation actually looked like. Harris had written extensively about how Neodogs would be happier as simple animals without the trauma of enhanced cognition. She discovered the flaw in her theory firsthand. Even the war profiteers didn't escape. Admiral retired Blackwood, who owned controlling shares in 3 different military contractors, had pushed for Neodog replacement programs that would have generated billions in new equipment contracts. His fortified mansion on Europa discovered that enhanced predators cared nothing for financial incentives or political connections. Blackwood's final moments were spent understanding exactly what he had tried to eliminate for profit. Corporate executive Rachel Triplett of CNEX Chemical learned that developing compounds to manage enhanced soldier loyalty came with unexpected occupational hazards. The ferals who found her in her penthouse office seemed to recognize something familiar in her scent. The chemical signature of their own destroyed minds. Triplett had personally overseen the chemical's development, calling it a humane solution to the Neodog problem. The creatures she had helped create showed her their own definition of humanity. Senator Patricia Dickens, who had secretly funneled defense appropriations away from Neodog units while publicly praising their service, found that her estate on New Geneva offered no protection from those she had betrayed. Dickens had diverted funding from Neodog medical research to human military programs, directly contributing to the conditions that made Project Cleanup possible. Dr. Martin Cross, the pharmaceutical researcher who had synthesized the neural degradation compound, discovered that his laboratory fortress on Phobos Station meant nothing to creatures who felt no fear. Cross had called his creation an elegant solution to enhance soldier independence, proud of his ability to strip away everything that made Neodogs more than animals. Each target received personal visits from the creatures their decisions had created. Each death was broadcast through carefully managed news channels, the pattern becoming clear to anyone who bothered to investigate. Every victim had been connected to the development and deployment of Project Cleanup. Every attack had involved the same type of creature, enhanced soldiers stripped of their humanity by the very people they killed. Target elimination complete, Damascus reported during a secure conference call. Al-23 confirmed neutralized. Any complications? Copper asked. Minor security investigations, but nothing connecting back to us. The ferals scattered into local wilderness areas as expected. Most will probably survive long enough to establish territory. And public reaction? Mixed. Some concern about dangerous alien predators, but also questions about why these particular individuals were targeted. A few investigative journalists are starting to ask uncomfortable questions about Project Cleanup. Captain Doug looked up from her intelligence monitors. Sir, we're receiving priority communications from Colonial Command. Admiral White requests immediate conference. Copper nodded. They'd known this moment would come eventually. The holographic image of Admiral White materialized in the conference room, his expression carefully neutral. Behind him, Copper could see other high-ranking officers and what appeared to be civilian investigators. Colonel Copper, the Admiral began formally, I'm sure you're aware of recent events across multiple colonial systems. I've seen the news reports, sir. Tragic accidents involving dangerous wildlife. Yes, tragic accidents. The Admiral paused meaningfully. Accidents that seem to have targeted individuals with specific connections to historical military operations. I wouldn't know about that, sir. Of course not. Another pause. Colonel, I want you to know that certain irregularities in past operations have come to light. The deployment of chemical agents against Neodog personnel has been officially declassified and condemned. Copper felt his pack tense around him. This was either genuine accountability or an elaborate trap. Furthermore, the Admiral continued, Fleet Command has authorized a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding the Kepler 442b deployment. Those responsible will face military tribunal. I appreciate that, sir, but the individuals responsible for Project Cleanup are already dead. Yes, the Admiral said quietly. They are. And while Fleet Command cannot officially condone unauthorized operations across multiple star systems, we also cannot ignore the fact that justice appears to have been served. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the holographic projector. Your orders, sir? Copper asked. Continue your current assignment as Planetary Defense Coordinator. Maintain security for Loyal Haven's civilian population. And Colonel, sir, your PAC service record speaks for itself. Whatever happened to the perpetrators of Project Cleanup, it had nothing to do with the fine soldiers under my command. The transmission ended, leaving Copper's officers staring at each other in amazement. Did he just, Fang began, give us official cover for an unsanctioned revenge operation, Sweetie finished? I think he did, Damascus laughed, a sound of pure relief. Fleet Command isn't stupid. They know what really happened, but they also know that trying to prosecute you would mean admitting the whole Project Cleanup conspiracy publicly. So we're clear? Luna asked. We're clear, Copper confirmed. The pack is safe, the mission is complete, and Loyal Haven remains under our protection. 6 months later, Colonel Copper stood once again at the observation deck of Guardian Station. Loyal Haven had grown even larger, its population approaching 60 million. The Colonial Council had officially recognized the 47th Frontier Battalion as permanent guardians of the world, with full military honors and unlimited support authorization. But more importantly, the feral attacks had virtually stopped. The remaining feral pack seemed to understand somehow that their tormentors were gone, their purpose fulfilled. They'd retreated deeper into the wilderness, becoming part of Loyal Haven's ecosystem rather than a threat to its colonists. Sir, Major Fang approached with the daily reports. We received a message from Major Damascus. He's been promoted to Colonial Military Liaison. Good for him. He's earned it. There's also this." She handed him a small package marked with official Fleet Command seals. Inside, Copper found a collection of military decorations, medals of honor for him and every surviving member of his pack. But more meaningfully, there was also a handwritten note. "To the soldiers of the 47th Frontier Battalion. Your service, sacrifice, and loyalty will never be forgotten. Thank you for reminding us what honor truly means. Admiral White." But perhaps most satisfying were the final reports Damascus had compiled about their targets. The investigation into the deaths had revealed the full scope of Project Cleanup to the public. Congressman Bradley's anti-Neodog legislation had been posthumously repealed. Bill Frank's defense contracts had been canceled and redistributed to companies with ethical oversight. Dr. Harris's research had been exposed as pseudoscientific propaganda, discrediting the entire liberation movement. The war profiteers, like Admiral Blackwood, had their assets frozen and redistributed to Neodog veteran support programs. The pharmaceutical companies that had developed the neural degradation compounds faced massive sanctions and criminal investigations. Even the political networks that had enabled the conspiracy were being systematically dismantled. Most importantly, the public now knew the truth. The ferals weren't proof that Neodogs were inherently dangerous. They were evidence of the lengths to which corrupt officials would go to eliminate soldiers who were too effective, too loyal, and too honest for their comfort. "Well," Copper said quietly, "I suppose that's as close to complete justice as we're likely to get." "It's more than enough," Fong replied. "Our brothers and sisters have been avenged. The truth is known. Loyal Haven is safe, and we're still here to protect it." Through the reinforced windows, the lights of Loyal Haven stretched toward the horizon. 59 million humans living safely under the protection of soldiers they'd once tried to destroy. The colonists had chosen their world's name wisely. It was a haven, built on loyalty, defended by loyalty, and named for those whose loyalty had transcended even betrayal and death. The last pack was still standing, and they always would be. 5 years after Operation Homecoming, Colonel Copper stood on the wraparound porch of his home in the Sanctuary Hills, watching 6 small bundles of fur tumble through the tall grass of the meadow below. The pups, 4 boys and 2 girls, had inherited their mother's keen intelligence and their father's tactical instincts, turning every game into an elaborate military exercise. "Tactical formation, ardent brother," called out his daughter Phoenix, the smallest but clearly the pack leader. Her siblings, Ranger, Scout, Hunter, Storm, and Little Sage, immediately responded to her commands as they stalked a particularly suspicious butterfly. From inside the house came the gentle sound of laughter. Captain Luna, now simply Luna to him, though she maintained her military rank for official duties, emerged onto the porch carrying 2 steaming bowls of rich bone broth, the savory aroma filling the air with warmth. "They're going to wear themselves out before the celebration tonight," she said, settling beside him on the custom-built furniture designed for their enhanced physiology. Copper accepted the bowl gratefully, inhaling the nourishing scent. The broth was made from local game bones, simmered for hours with herbs that grew wild in the hills, where several feral packs had somehow learned to coexist, mostly peacefully, with human agricultural workers. It was both sustaining and comforting, perfect for their enhanced metabolisms. "Let them play," he said, watching Phoenix execute a perfect tactical role that would have impressed his old drill sergeants. "They'll have plenty of time to be serious when they're older." The house around them was a marvel of thoughtful design, built specifically for Neodog families by the colonial government as part of the Enhanced Soldier Veteran Housing Program. High ceilings accommodated their enhanced stature, reinforced floors handled their increased weight and strength, and every doorway was designed for comfortable passage. Large windows provided excellent sightlines. Old military habits died hard, while the open floor plan allowed for pack-style living. The sound of approaching footsteps drew Copper's attention to the path leading up from the road. Colby Thompson, their human neighbor from the farm down the valley, was walking toward the house carrying a wrapped bundle and wearing the satisfied expression of a successful hunter. "Morning, Colonel," Colby called out cheerfully. "Luna, hope you don't mind the early visit." "Never a problem, Colby," Copper replied, rising to greet his neighbor. "What brings you up the hill today?" Colby hefted the bundle with obvious pride. "Brought down a prime buck yesterday evening. Big 8-painter that's been raiding my vegetable garden all season. Figured you and the pack might appreciate some fresh venison." He unwrapped the bundle to reveal perfectly butchered cuts of meat, still fresh and rich with the scent that immediately caught the attention of all 6 pups. Their heads popped up from the grass like synchronized periscopes, noses twitching with interest. "Colby, that's incredibly generous," Luna said, accepting the meat with genuine gratitude. "You know how much the pups love fresh game." "Kelly sent this along too," Colby added, producing a cloth-wrapped loaf from his satchel. "Fresh wheat bread, still warm from the oven. She says it goes perfect with your bone broth." The gesture was typical of their neighbors in the valley. When the Sanctuary Hills District had been established, there had been some initial concerns about how human and Neodog families would coexist. Those concerns had evaporated within the first month, replaced by the kind of genuine community spirit that made Loyal Haven special. "Please give Kelly our thanks," Copper said, "and tell her Luna's been asking for her recipe for those herb-crusted root vegetables." "Will do. Though you know she'll insist on coming up here to teach Luna in person. Any excuse to spoil those pups of yours?" As if summoned by the mention of spoiling, the 6 pups had abandoned their tactical exercises and were now sitting in perfect formation at the base of the porch steps, their enhanced discipline warring with puppy enthusiasm as they stared hopefully at the fresh meat. "At ease, warriors," Copper chuckled. "But no treats until after morning patrol exercises." A chorus of disappointed whines rose from the pups, but they maintained their positions with the kind of discipline that would have made any drill sergeant proud. "They're getting big," Colby observed. "Phoenix there looks like she's ready to start helping with the real patrols soon." "Another year or 2, Luna replied. "Enhanced development is faster than human, but we want them to enjoy being pups while they can." Colby nodded understandingly. The human colonists of Loyal Haven had learned to appreciate the unique aspects of Neodog family life, just as the Neodogs had adapted to human customs and traditions. "Well, I'll let you folks get back to your morning routine," Colby said. "But don't forget, barbecue at our place this weekend. Kelly's already planning to make enough food for both our families." As Colby headed back down the path, Copper felt his comm unit chime with an incoming message. Major Fang's voice carried the tone he'd learned to recognize over the years. "Sir, sorry to interrupt your leave, but we have a situation that requires your expertise." Copper sighed, recognizing the tone. It wasn't an emergency. Fang would have used military protocols for that, but something requiring his particular skills. "What kind of situation, Major?" "We have visitors. 3 ships just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. They're broadcasting peaceful intentions and requesting permission to establish a refugee camp." Luna's ears perked up with interest. This was unusual enough to warrant attention. "Refugees from where?" Copper asked. "That's the interesting part, sir. They're Neodogs, enhanced soldiers from the Centurion 4 campaign. Apparently word has gotten out about Loyal Haven being a safe place for our kind." Copper felt a familiar stirring of protective instincts. The Centurion 4 campaign had been brutal. He'd heard reports of massive casualties and questionable command decisions. If enhanced soldiers were fleeing that theater of operations, something had gone very wrong. "How many?" "Preliminary scans show approximately 400 individuals, sir, mix of military personnel and civilians. They're requesting asylum." Luna met his eyes, understanding passing between them without words. Phoenix had stopped supervising her siblings and was looking up at the porch, her enhanced hearing having caught fragments of the conversation. "Papa," she called. Are more soldiers coming to our home? Copper smiled down at his daughter. At 3 years old, she already understood that Loyal Haven was special, a place where enhanced soldiers were valued rather than feared or abandoned. Maybe, little warrior. Would you like that? Yes, all 6 pups chorused, immediately abandoning their disciplined formation to bound up the porch steps. Will they bring pups? Can we teach them the butterfly formation? Easy there, Luna laughed, catching Storm as he launched himself at his father while Sage tried to climb up Copper's leg. Let Papa handle the grown-up soldier stuff first. Copper activated his comm unit. Major Fang, grant them approach clearance but maintain standard security protocols. I'll be at Guardian Station within the hour. Copy that, sir. And, Colonel, the lead ship is requesting to speak with you personally. The commanding officer says he served under you during the Vega offensive. That gave Copper pause. The Vega offensive had been early in his career, before Kepler 442b. He tried to remember which of his former packmates might have transferred to Centurion 4 operations. Did he give a name? Captain Flash, sir. Says you taught him everything he knows about defensive perimeters. Copper grinned despite himself. Flash had been an eager young lieutenant during Vega, full of energy and absolutely terrible at sitting still during briefings. If he was leading 400 Neodogs to safety, he'd grown into the soldier Copper had always known he could become. Tell Captain Flash that his old pack leader is looking forward to the reunion. And Fang? Sir? Contact the Colonial Council. We're going to need to expand the Sanctuary Hills district. 3 hours later, Copper stood in the main landing bay of Guardian Station as the first refugee transport touched down. Through the reinforced windows, he could see hundreds of Neodogs disembarking, soldiers, technicians, medical personnel, and families with pups clinging to their parents. They moved with the careful alertness of people who had learned not to trust the ground beneath their feet. Many bore the signs of recent combat, healing wounds, replacement equipment, the 1,000-yard stare that came from seeing too much violence. But as they stepped onto Loyal Haven soil and were greeted by Copper's soldiers, their own kind, clearly healthy and respected, the tension began to drain from their postures. Colonel Copper, sir. Captain Flash's voice boomed across the landing bay. He looked older, scarred by whatever had happened at Centurion 4, but his eyes still held that same eager intelligence. Captain Flash, Copper replied, clasping his former student's hand. Welcome home. Home, sir? Loyal Haven is home to any enhanced soldier who needs one. We learned that lesson the hard way here. Flash's expression softened with something that might have been relief. Sir, I have to tell you what happened at Centurion 4, why we had to leave. Command tried to implement a new version of Protocol 7. They called it operational streamlining. But it was the same old story, Copper finished grimly. Enhanced soldiers, too effective, too expensive, too independent for their comfort. Yes, sir. When we refused to abandon our civilian support staff during the evacuation of Centurion 4 Prime, they declared us in violation of direct orders. We were classified as deserters. And now? Flash gestured to the crowd of Neodogs being processed through the landing bay. Now we're refugees seeking asylum on the one world in human space where enhanced soldiers are still considered heroes instead of problems to be solved. Copper watched as his own soldiers moved among the newcomers, offering assistance, sharing food, and most importantly, providing the simple comfort of acceptance. Doug was organizing temporary housing assignments. Doug was checking medical needs. Tracker was already planning expanded patrol routes to accommodate the larger population. Captain Flash, Copper said formally, on behalf of the 47th Frontier Battalion and the Colonial Government of Loyal Haven, I officially grant asylum to you and your people. Welcome to the pack. That evening, the traditional celebration of Loyal Haven Liberation Day took on special significance. The annual commemoration of the planet's defense had grown into the colony's most important holiday. But this year it also marked the arrival of 400 new residents. The central square of Loyal Haven City was packed with both humans and Neodogs, the two species mingling freely in a way that would have been unthinkable on most worlds. Both human and Neodog ran between the adults, their games a perfect example of the integration that had made the colony so successful. Copper stood on the platform with Major Damascus, now Colonial Administrator Damascus, and the other dignitaries, but his attention was focused on his own family in the crowd below. Luna held Sage and Storm while Phoenix, Ranger, Scout, and Hunter sat in a neat row at her feet, all of them cheering as the refugee Neodogs were formally welcomed by the colonial government. "Citizens of Loyal Haven," Damascus announced, his voice carrying across the square. "Today we celebrate not just our liberation from alien invasion, but our continued commitment to the ideals that built this world: loyalty, honor, the belief that all who serve deserve a place to call home." The crowd erupted in applause, and Copper felt something he hadn't experienced in years: pure contentment. The last pack was no longer standing alone, as they had built something worth defending, something worth sharing. As the formal ceremony concluded and the celebration moved into its traditional evening phase, storytelling, music, and the sharing of food, Phoenix tugged at his uniform. "Papa, are the new soldiers going to stay?" "Yes, little warrior. They're going to help us protect our home." "Good," she said with the absolute certainty of childhood. "Home should have lots of family." Copper looked out over the celebration, watching hundreds of enhanced soldiers, veterans of a dozen campaigns, survivors of betrayal and abandonment, finding their place among the lights of Loyal Haven. Damascus was right. They had built something worth celebrating. The last pack had become the first pack of something entirely new, a place where loyalty was rewarded instead of punished, where enhanced soldiers could raise families without fear, where the ideals they fought for actually meant something. Home. It was a good word. As the alien stars wheeled overhead and the celebration continued into the night, Colonel Copper of the 47th Frontier Battalion allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they had finally won the war that mattered most, the war for a place to belong. Many thanks to my channel members and Pathfinders. You all make these videos possible. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.